My daughter described the missiles as a stick. We have one, and those who don't will consider this if they feel aggressive towards us. Even those with a stick will think twice, as long as they know that we have a stick and we know how to use it.
It was the 1980s. Britain was engaged in the Cold War and the Soviet Union was the enemy. Boasting a considerable nuclear arsenal, the Soviet Union made it clear that it was ready for a fight. To counter this, Britain began developing weapons of its own, designed to deter the possibility of a Soviet attack. At the forefront of this deterrent were the American-made Polaris nuclear missiles. These were carried by 4 Resolution-class nuclear submarines: HMS Resolution, Repulse, Renown, and Revenge. These submarines would patrol the seas, spending months at a time underwater, ready to fire their missiles on a 15-minute notice.
My first submarine was a diesel submarine, HMS Finwell. I was on there for a year. My second submarine was HMS Superb. I was on there for about 2.5 years. And then my final submarine was HMS Renown, 1982 to 1985. I was a reactor panel operator, so obviously there's a nuclear reactor on the submarine, and my job was to control the reactor to make sure that the propulsion worked at the right time. So it's all about getting the steam to the turbines that drove the propellers.
I joined in 1963 and left in 87, so I did 24 years, including my time as a boy seaman. From there I joined submarines and I eventually served on HMS Oracle, HMS Porpoise, HMS Orpheus, HMS Renown. I was on the starboard crew and I ended my time on HMS Sovereign.
Well, each day you used to walk past those missile tubes probably 2, 3, 4 times a day, depending on how many watches we had, because I used to work back aft on the reactor. So we'd walk through the missile compartment every day. Didn't really think about it. I mean, the only thought was if something goes wrong, but you trust that people have designed the submarine and all the systems such that things don't go wrong. And in fact, there's never been a problem, a serious incident on any of the submarines with any of the missiles anyway. The fact that I'd been on a hunter-killer beforehand, which used to do a lot of the Cold War sort of thing you're on about, gave me some idea of what was going on outside the Polaris submarine. And one of the first aims of the Polaris submarine is to remain undetected. So, I mean, that was our main aim, our first main aim. So, providing we all worked towards that, things were generally going to be okay.
We knew that it's quite a busy ocean out there. You know, I don't know how many nations have high-performance submarines. There's a lot of them out there, and yeah, you do think to yourself, right, we're bombing along here at a given speed, and it's fast. I mean, fast enough so that when we were on the hydroplanes, if we were going to do high-speed manoeuvres, we would have to strap in almost like a rally harness. So if you're bombing along at high speed, and they are as well, I mean, you think to yourself, well, it's only a matter of time before you could end up with some sort of bump, and bumps did happen. Keeping silence has been the ultimate thing that you try and achieve when you're at sea in a submarine. Almost certainly the only way they can detect you is noise. All right, they can ping on you actively with sonar and get an echo back, but if you're making any kind of noise, and when you think about the potential number of noise sources there are in a submarine, from motors, engines, my chef dropping a huge great aluminium tray on a steel deck. I mean, the Queen Mary would hear that going into New York Harbour if we were in Scotland. So the word was silence. And in the old diesel submarines, when we used to go to ultra quiet routine, all ventilation, air conditioning, I mean, we were all actively encouraged to go to bed if you weren't actually on watch doing a job, because if you're laying in your bunk, even if you don't sleep, you're using less oxygen and there's far less likelihood of you knocking something over and making a noise. And I still now don't react too well to sudden loud noises. I get very cross when people drop things and make me jump. I think it's just the way we were.
Yeah, we like to think we were nice and quiet, and they were a bit noisier. So that was one of the first things that helped us remain undetected. The quietness of our submarines. There's always a chance you could be detected. I mean, I would have thought it's more by chance than actually them hunting that they come across you, because we didn't go and seek any danger. You used to hide all the time. So that's the remaining undetected element of it.
Polaris was replaced by Trident in 1994. By then, the Soviet Union had collapsed. Over time, smaller nations like North Korea and Pakistan have emerged as nuclear powers. Fragile governments and anti-West sentiment have reintroduced the need for a strong nuclear deterrent in order to prevent the possibility of attack, thanks to the assurance of mutual destruction.
No, I believe in MAD, mutually assured destruction. I'm totally convinced that other than the legally insane, everybody knows there'll be no winner in a nuclear exchange. Everyone loses. There'll probably be, nothing to come home to.
Britain is currently revising the Trident programme by building 4 new Dreadnought-class submarines, the first of which is due to be unveiled in 2028. While the majority of the British public are in support of the programme, there are still those who are against it.
I actually don't say a lot to them. They're entitled to their thoughts, and sometimes it's pointless arguing or even trying to discuss with people like that. So I couldn't see myself having a conversation with Jeremy Corbyn about the whole thing, because you're fighting a losing battle there. So I generally just let people have their own thoughts on it.
No, I don't think it's outdated. I think whoever holds superiority in this arms race, I think, has a distinct advantage. But I still believe in mutually assured destruction. I believe that all the while you have the ability to retaliate and make it just so unworth their while to do anything like this, I think it works, because yeah, all right, the Soviet Union isn't a threat anymore, but I mean, I just think we are just slowly creeping towards a situation where other smaller nations may acquire nuclear capability, and I think heaven help anybody who's not in a position to at least be able to counter it.
It was a subject that I initially grappled with, especially as CND were much more prevalent in the 80s. I concluded that if we were called upon to fire our missiles, everything else had failed.